Hi, this is David Ferguson from MLC CAD Systems, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the arc filter and how to apply it to both roughing and finishing toolpaths from that 3D high-speed toolpath gallery we so love to use. So this is a part we were talking about earlier. On my screen is just a kind of a complex shape, and I've got a couple of toolpaths to rough this out and some toolpaths to finish it. And specifically, I'm going to be looking at applying my arc filter to my roughing toolpath, which is, of course, a 3D high-speed dynamic OptiRough, one of our favorite toolpaths, and a waterline toolpath for my finish paths. Again, one of our favorite toolpaths. And how can I use the arc filter for the roughing toolpath? One, to make the roughing toolpath a lot more palatable for my machine, reduce the code size, and we'll look at that here in a sec is what I'm talking about. And then how can I use the arc filter, not necessarily to make the toolpath smaller, although that will be an offshoot or a side benefit for a finishing toolpath, but just how to make the toolpath flow better. And we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at that in a moment. The first thing I really need to do or know how to do in the software is understand how to view my toolpaths in a way that I'm getting the maximum amount of information from the software without necessarily having to look at the NC file or without having to maybe run it and verify. I just want more information. So when I'm looking at the toolpath right now, and this is my op number one, again, my OptiRough, I am viewing this in your traditional sort of Mastercam color palette for toolpaths, which is basically two colors. I've got blue for feed motion, and you can see I'm moving around the part, repositioning using all feed rates, and yellow for rapid motion. And of course, I can see that at the very beginning and end of the operation where I've got a couple of just of vertical moves to a clearance height and then back to it. Everything else is generally happening at a feed rate. And I don't really get necessarily a lot of information beyond that. So one of my favorite buttons in Mastercam is what is called the Advanced Toolpath Display button. And if you're not using this button, I highly recommend you do so. If I go ahead and click sort of on the pull down for advanced display, I can look at all the different things, types of toolpath motion I can see, and basically dictate each of one of those as a different color. And the one I'm very interested in is the last one, what are called endpoints. Because when I view this toolpath with endpoints displayed, I may be in for a bit of a shock. Now, traditionally to view endpoints, I could also do that in backplot. I could backplot a toolpath and say I'm running in either incremental or trace mode. I do have the ability to turn those endpoints on in backplot, and there they are. Wow, that's a lot of them. So we're going to have to do something about that. But I have to launch backplot to see that, and that's a little annoying, because if all I'm trying to see are endpoints, it'd be nice if I could just see those on my screen. So I'm going to first turn on the ability of my advanced toolpath display to display those endpoints just by making sure that box is checked. Okay, I'm still not seeing them because obviously I need to turn that button on. So I'm going to go ahead and click my advanced toolpath display, and I'm seeing those endpoints now displayed. So here is advanced toolpath display without the endpoints displayed. I can see, hey, there's my transition colors, that nice rusty color. Entries are green, exits are red. I still have my traditional blue and yellow, so for feed and for rapid, but I get to see different types of feed as different colors, and so I just get a little more info out of that. Now, if I'm maybe a little uncomfortable with my color choice there for my endpoints, geez, that's pretty bright. On my View tab up top on my ribbon, I do have an Advanced Toolpath Display button, and that is just an on-off button for that function. But if I click down and to the right of that button, I do have my display options. So from that, and this traditionally would be located in your configuration, but now we can access it in real time without having to launch our config. I'm going to find over here on the left, hey, there are my endpoints. I can make them larger, to the point of just obliterating your part visually. And of course, I can also change their colors. And that yellow is maybe a little hard on the eyes, so maybe I go with something a little nicer, something with a little more pop. White is always a good color for those. They do have a lot of contrast, but basically that's what you're looking for, is just something with a lot of contrast, so it's very obvious what you're looking at. And you can adjust that sort of in real time. When you do make those changes, it does ask you if you want to save that to your config. If you don't, you can just say no, and it's just sort of a one-time change. So Whether you want that to be permanent or not is ultimately up to you. But boy, howdy, there are a lot of node points. As you may or may not know, with tricordial or dynamic toolpaths in Mastercam, they tend to be linearized by default. The arc filter is never turned on as a default setting for reasons, I'm sure, but it's not, so we just have to deal with it. And you can see you've got just these long sort of string of pearl effects where the toolpath is basically checking its position again and again and again, even on what amounts to be large, mostly linear, nearly straight line moves. And that's simply going to generate a lot of code. It's going to be a lot of code for the machine to get through as quick as I tend to run these toolpaths. So my machine might struggle to keep up with this. There's all kinds of reasons why I want to get rid of that linearization. Mostly because it just makes the toolpath just unnecessarily big. So for OptiRough, a real good basic sort of structure, and I'm just going to show you what I run my filter at when I run OptiRoughs. So I use OptiRoughs pretty much every time I machine something. Large positive molds is what I make. So this is stuff I do just as a common practice. Under my arc filter tolerance page, I'm going to check a couple of boxes here. And the first one I'm going to check, obviously, is just to turn the filter on. Assuming my machine is okay with it, I'm going to generate arcs in all three planes using a G17, G18, or G19. But just the G17 alone can save you quite a lot of linearization, because we're basically trying to get more arc output with this, or at least, at the very least, reduce some of that linearization. For OptiRoughs, I also have the option to output a 3D arc entry motion. That's helixes or ramps or medial entries can generate a lot of code sort of on their own. So it just lets me kind of, again, use an arc output, a 3D arc output, preferably, for any sort of entry motion. And then basically I'm just going to go ahead and play with my slider here. Now I've got a total cut tolerance of 1,000 here. Or I should say toolpath tolerance of 1,000. My cut tolerance right now is a number I can't even pronounce. And basically sort of the way you can kind of work with this, or an easy way to think about the basic arc filter, is that to the left, this slider here, more towards cut tolerance, that tends to be more linearization. Towards the right, towards what they call line arc tolerance, that tends to be more arc output. And you're basically looking for some sort of balance between those two. And I found over the years that my preferred sort of setting for that slider tends to be somewhere from 20 to 30% for cut tolerance. So I'll go ahead and I'll put in 30% cut tolerance, which leaves me 70% for arc creation. Again, 2080 is also sort of my favorite. So somewhere between those two ranges gets me, again, sort of the results I'm looking for. So just noting the size of the toolpath right now, the size of at least the raw NCI data is about 1150K. So it's not a small piece of code. And applying this filter, this is what's going to happen. So I'm just going to green check and generate that filter and allow that toolpath to regenerate here. And since my advanced toolpath display is still on with those arc outputs, with those endpoints there, I can see dramatic reduction in the number of those points. My toolpath is reduced by, just a crazy amount. It's now about 171K in raw NCI data, so it's a much smaller piece. It's still holding a tight tolerance. It'll still be well within whatever I'm trying to hit. It's just a lot less code for that machine to chew through. Really, any of the toolpaths in Mastercam that are labeled as tricordial or dynamic, so dynamic mill, even dynamic peel mill, even dynamic face sometimes, but especially OptiRough, greatly benefits from my ability to reduce that file size, reduce the number of endpoints or node points I'm generating, get some G2 and G3 output with that, so the tool is flowing a little bit more. Older machines have maybe a little more time to think about what the next move is. So it's just generally an overall improvement of what that toolpath is capable of doing with the amount of code provided. Same toolpath, a lot less code, and just a nicer, more flowing operation. Now, looking at this in terms of a finished toolpath, which is a slightly different mindset, I'm going to go ahead and highlight my high-speed water line here. Okay, and this water line is not using any arc filtering whatsoever. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of look at one area on this part with this water line. I can see that, sort of like buying a car at night and in the rain, hey, it looks pretty good, from 30 feet. As I get closer, it's not maybe going to look so friendly. I don't really feel like I'm following that surface very well in some of the tighter, smaller areas. As we can see with those endpoints displayed, I am, that doesn't look that great. It's not bad. I mean, it probably would be okay. But I know I can do a lot better with that. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to make a copy of this water line, just a direct copy, right? Not going to change any other values, with the exception of I'm going to apply the filter settings that I like to use when I'm making molds, and I'm using a water line. Again, one of my favorite toolpaths. So over here on the left-hand side, I'm just going to go ahead and just copy this guy. And the reason I'm copying it rather than just changing the one I have is just to be able to A-B between the two. So I'm just going to do a simple copy after, and that's just a right-click, drag, and hold. That's how I like to copy stuff. There's my new water line, again, exactly like the old one, except this one's going to get the filter applied to it. So I'll go ahead and go in to the parameters for that. I'll go down to my arc filter, and again, I'm not using anything here, okay? So I'm going to do this in much the same way, with the exception of that for a finished toolpath, I might bring in some smoothing settings to help sort of even out some of those passes a little bit. So this isn't always necessarily going to make my toolpath smaller. It typically does. But sometimes applying a heavy smoothing element can sometimes, sort of blow it up a little bit. So you do got to be aware of that if file size is a concern. But generally speaking, it will make it smaller overall. And right now this water line's at about 13K or so in NCI data. So it's, again, a pretty big toolpath. So I'll turn on my filter a lot like I do for an OptiRough. If the toolpath allows me to do so, I will always output 3D Arc Entry Motion. They don't all give you that option, but when it's there, use it. And I'm also going to turn on my smoothing settings. Now, this gives me sort of the ability to distribute my overall total tolerance for that toolpath, which again is at 1,000, and that doesn't change, between sort of linearization, or what cut tolerance. How often do I need the toolpath to check itself? And even if we reduce that number greatly, it's still a very accurate toolpath. And then arc creation, or line arc tolerance, and then finally some smoothing. So this may seem like a confusing kind of thing going on here, but basically you're looking to just put your emphasis where you want it. Obviously, the more value I have in cut tolerance, the more linearized a toolpath tends to be. The more value I have in my line arc tolerance, generally speaking, the less linearized, or easy way to think about it is the more arcs you tend to get, being the opposite of linearization. And then the more value I put in smoothing, potentially the smoother that toolpath's going to look. For me, what I've found in programming these guys is I like to pull a lot of value out of cut tolerance and then sort of equally distribute between arc creation and smoothing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drop, say, 20% in my cut tolerance. And then I basically got 60% sort of left, or sorry, I should say 80% left over. So I'll go ahead and put this at 40% there, which leaves me 40% for smoothing. Okay, and that's all I'm doing. So 20, 40, 40 is kind of what I refer to that as, right? So again, most of my emphasis on arcs and smoothness. Okay, so I'll go ahead and green check and regenerate that toolpath. And basically what we'll do is we'll just do a quick A-B between them. So this might take a second, waiting for my water line, but okay, so this was my first one, right? We remember what this looked like, right? That is passable. It's okay. I don't hate it. Well, I do hate it. It's not very good because it's very bumpy. It doesn't follow things very well. It's a lot of node points. This is my new water line with that filter applied. You can clearly see the difference when I apply that arc output and that smoothing. Where I was turning a lot of these small areas with small linear motion, again, that's A. That's sort of my my unaltered one, and then the filter applied, just night and day. Very obvious between these two which one I would be a lot happier running. It is a smoother run all over the part. Now, I will still see some linearization in some of the smaller areas, and that's perfectly fine. That's where I may want that to, for accuracy. Sometimes, and it depends obviously on the shape of the part. Arcs don't work everywhere, so sometimes you do need some, and that's perfectly fine. But simply applying that filter from 1 to 2, again, that's 1, that's no filter applied. Here's 2 with the filter applied. it's a visual step up in both just sort of the evenness of that pattern collapsing across that surface. And in this case, actually, I did get a pretty good reduction in the size of that particular file. So kind of between those two, which one would you want to try to run? You can see how kind of uneven and just sort of messy that toolpath is, how much sort of just nicer and calmer that toolpath is. So applying the arc filter to both my rough and my finished toolpaths for complex 3D shapes, especially all the 3D high-speed toolpaths, that's definitely something that I'm doing every time I write one of these. It's not something I want to skip or miss or forget about, because the benefits, not only in the reduction of the file size, but just in the overall quality of what's going to come out the other end of that machine, is just, as I said, just a legit big step up when you don't use it. So thank you very much.